It was a comfortably hot June afternoon when I rolled into Ramsgate after a cloudy, windswept but mercifully dry morning in nearby Broadstairs. The warmth wrapped around me like a blanket, and I couldn't help but think how un-British it felt. The skies were a clear Mediterranean blue, and the breeze, warm yet refreshing, carried none of that usual coastal chill. Ramsgate immediately greeted me with its peculiar landscape. Slopes and hills, houses stacked atop each other in layers, like a Mediterranean town transposed onto English soil. It was hard to believe I was still on the southeast coast of England. For a brief moment, Ramsgate felt like it belonged somewhere sunnier, more exotic. Parking, however, was a different story. After circling for what felt like an eternity, I finally found a spot near the marina, an area that quickly revealed the town's posher side. Rows of sleek yachts bobbed gently in the marina's embrace, their polished exteriors gleaming under the sun. Ramsgate's marina is a world of its own, where wealth lingers on the water's surface and the glint of polished brass catches your eye. I felt a strange pull towards it, not because I belong in that world, but because it felt oddly out of place in an old town like this. The town's name, Ramsgate, offers a subtle nod to its past, much like its neighbor Margate. Though the origins are debated, one interpretation suggests the name comes from Ramsgate, referring to a gap in the cliffs once used by fishermen and sailors to reach the shore. It's an ancient name for an ancient place, one that saw Vikings and Anglo-Saxons land on these shores long before it became a genteel seaside resort. Ramsgate's history is entwined with England's grand narrative, an Anglo-Saxon settlement turned Norman stronghold before becoming a bustling port in the industrial age. Yet, for all its history, it doesn't cling to the past quite like Margate does. Ramsgate feels different, more practical somehow, with less of the nostalgia that other coastal towns wear like a badge of honor. As I walked towards the beach, dressed in shorts and flip-flops, the hot pavement felt so un-English that I almost forgot where I was. People were everywhere, sunbathing, laughing, strolling along with ice creams in hand. These weren't the sorrowful, downtrodden faces of a typical British high street. No, these people radiated contentment, as though the sun had done more than warm their skin. It had lifted their spirits. The cafes and restaurants lining the marina were overflowing, tables crowded with holiday-goers and locals alike, soaking in the rare gift of a truly warm day. Ramsgate's past stretches deep into the fabric of English history, from its beginnings as a small settlement in Anglo-Saxon times to its role during the Norman conquest. It played its part during the medieval period as a hub for fishermen, and later it blossomed in the industrial age when the railway arrived, transforming it into a seaside destination. But the sea, always the sea, remained Ramsgate's greatest asset. Throughout the centuries, trade flowed in and out of its harbour, and the town grew on the back of the waves. The sea has been its lifeline, and in a way it still is. But as I reached the sandy shore, the Mediterranean illusion began to falter. The sand was bright and hot beneath my feet, but the sea, oh, the sea, was icy cold, with a murky, muddy hue. It felt like stepping into another world, one where the sun's warmth evaporated, leaving behind the bracing chill of the English coast. Any dreams I had of dipping into a warm, clear, Mediterranean-like sea were dashed the moment my toes touched the water. Ramsgate's illusion shattered, and I was reminded once again that I was indeed in the UK. As I looked around, I noticed the new construction projects looming in the background, advertisements for luxury residences and living centres promising a seaside escape in the lap of modern comfort. The creeping fingers of capitalism were obvious, and there was something disheartening about seeing these sterile, glass-fronted developments overshadowing the natural beauty of the beach. Ramsgate, it seemed, was being carved up by commerce, its once untouched coastline now a playground for developers. The town that had once thrived on trade and industry now found itself shaped by a more insidious force, consumerism. I left the beach feeling both content and disillusioned. I'd felt the sun warm my skin, enjoyed the lively atmosphere of the marina, but there was a sadness too, a sadness for the Ramsgate that was being slowly overtaken by greed, its identity chipped away by the weight of modern development. Walking through the town centre, the Mediterranean charm vanished entirely. The heart of Ramsgate is a far cry from the boutique chic of Margate or the picturesque compactness of Broadstairs. It's a large, sprawling place with wide roads and a jumble of shops that could belong in any other British town. The usual suspects were all there: Lloyd's Bank, Specsavers, fish and chip shops, charity stores, and a scattering of Chinese takeaways and Turkish kebab shops. The town centre lacked the charm of Whitstable's quaint streets or Margate's artistic flair. Here, Ramsgate was revealed as just another high street, a reminder that not all British seaside towns are whimsical or posh. Eventually, I found my way back to the car, parked just near the marina. To reach it, I had to climb a steep slope, a road carved out of the earth, as though the town itself had bent to human will. By the time I reached the top, Ramsgate's dual personality had become clear to me. There were two sides to this place: the sun-drenched, yacht-filled marina that teased of South European coastal towns, and the colder, practical high street that anchored it firmly in North European reality. As I left Ramsgate behind, heading southwest in search of a smaller town with more distinct qualities, I couldn't help but feel a mix of emotions. Ramsgate had been warm, welcoming even, but also conflicted, its beauty marred by its own ambition. I was happy to have felt the sun on my skin, but a little sad too, for the Ramsgate that might have been, had it not been pulled in so many directions. It's a town with two faces, one basking in the Mediterranean glow, and the other forever facing the grey reality of a British seaside town.